The transmission erupted with ceremonial grandeur, carried across the interstellar diplomatic channels on waves of sound that seemed to reverberate through the void itself. A resonant alien voice followed, dripping with the kind of arrogance only a civilization that had dominated the stars unopposed for 3 millennia could wield. To the citizens of the Galactic Accord, the voice declared, the Empire of Order has secured the custody of 20 human offspring, the children of Earth's foremost military, scientific, and political leaders. They shall be treated kindly, provided their parents conduct themselves appropriately. This is no act of war, merely a lesson. Humanity must be taught humility. The screen shifted, revealing a pristine white chamber. 20 children sat in stark chairs, each one dwarfed by guards of monstrous size. Yet fear was conspicuously absent. A young girl hummed a tune as though daydreaming. A boy near the front stifled a yawn. Another idly mined his nose and wiped the result along his armrest. The broadcast faded. Silence swept across the galaxy. Less than an hour later, the Galactic Council received a reply. The message was immaculate, formatted in flawless compliance with every clause of interstellar protocol, drafted in Terran's standard diplomatic script. Every sentence shimmered with legal precision. But it was the signature that unsettled the chamber. Elias Wren, Terran ambassador to the Accord. Clearance, Black restricted. The words were read aloud, and Elias's voice, warm and deceptively genial, flowed through the chamber like a fine brew poured into waiting cups. Esteemed council members, the message began smoothly, we have reviewed your broadcast with keen interest. Humanity thanks you for confirming the whereabouts and condition of our younglings. Polite. Measured. Absolutely chilling. We recognize the motive behind your demonstration, a show of authority, a reminder of order. We appreciate such transparency. However, Earth historically responds poorly to threats against its progeny. The translation feed stuttered on progeny. The alien systems flagged the words dual implication, offspring or legacy. Elias had chosen it deliberately. In the spirit of harmony, we respectfully request the immediate return of all 20 children. Failure to do so within the next 8 Earth hours will necessitate escalation, first to diplomatic censure and thereafter to active dispute negotiations under Accord Article 9, subsection 4. Not a single insult. Not a direct threat. Yet the words pressed heavily enough to make battle-hardened warlords shift in their seat. General Ferlac of the Galactic Empire, a scarred brute of crusted skin and a jaw like welded steel, slammed his fist against the council's table. Is this mockery? The humans bluff. Do they believe civility and paperwork can frighten us? Beside him, Zenekai, philosopher of the Omatri, her form tall and glimmering blue-silver, rubbed her temple as though weary. You do not understand Elias Wren, she murmured. He is not a bureaucrat. He is cultivated. He is dangerous. Ferlac spat. He is a librarian draped in cloth. No, Zenekai whispered, eyes darkening. He is a serpent cloaked in courtesy. Back on Earth, Elias ended his recording with a practiced smile, a smile that displayed teeth but never warmth. He powered down the holocom, rose smoothly, and adjusted the cuffs of his tailored navy suit. The war room behind him remained still. Admirals, generals, covert strategists, and Black Ops tacticians lined the oval table, all watching him as though he were a weapon that might detonate. Well, Elias said lightly, clapping once. I believe our children are faring splendidly. A bespectacled woman at the far end raised a hesitant hand. Sir, forgive me, but are we truly withholding action? I understand patience may have symbolic value, but those are our children. Elias strolled toward the central console, tapping a sequence. A projection shimmered to life, a live feed from the Empire's holding facility. The children appeared at ease, sitting cross-legged, whispering jokes, shuffling ration wrappers into makeshift playing cards. One boy, 10-year-old Jamie Leclerc, tinkered beneath the table with intent focus. What do you see? Elias asked. Children. Strangely calm, Admiral Singh replied. Precisely. And that they know something we don't. Elias's grin widened. Closer. They're trained. Raised not for combat, but for misdirection, observation, code work. Jamie, the boy under the table, once hijacked a drone simply to secure an extra cookie. Now he's building a signal booster out of cafeteria scraps. A younger officer let out a low whistle. They're bait. They're the hook, Elias corrected. The line was cast long ago. The Empire thinks it holds our vulnerability. In truth, it has grasped our trigger. His gaze sharpened. The Empire has gifted us something humanity has not known in 3,000 years: moral clarity. An elder general leaned forward, arms folded. You're not suggesting we strike first? Elias's smile returned, sharp and cold. Of course not. We are merely preparing our delegation. After all, it would be discourteous to appear unready. Inside the alien detention center, the guards had begun to sense it. Not rebellion. Not resistance. Something more unnerving. A collective stillness. A silence more dreadful than screams. One child folded paper with exacting care. Another taught a surveillance drone a binary song. Recton, a weary six-eyed guard, reviewed the footage and felt unease coil in his stomach. What are they doing? His subordinate asked. Recton's throat clicked. They're waiting. For what? That's the problem, Recton whispered. They already know. Across the stars, the council reconvened in haste. Elias's letter had been dissected line by line, every phrase catalogued. What emerged was staggering. 19 distinct legal triggers, each tied to long-forgotten clauses in the Accord. Every one of them authorized Earth to escalate without ever breaching formal declarations of war. The final clause was whispered into the chamber with dread: Protocol Dawnfire. Some had thought it legend. Zenekai shook her head slowly. Not legend. Doctrine. It was proposed when Earth first entered the Accord, forged in the shadow of its second Cold War. A safeguard, should peace ever be twisted into a leash. The chamber fell into tense silence. They show no fleet movements, one council member muttered. No mobilization. Nothing overt. And yet, another added, voice quivering, 5 of our surveillance outposts have just gone dark. Not disrupted. Not destroyed. Simply silent. Ferlac rose to his feet, voice booming through the chamber. I say we disregard them. Earth is noisy, but in the end, they are nothing more than mammals bound to a dirtball. Zenekai turned, her expression weary yet edged with ice. You just mocked a species that has endured extinction 5 separate times. Who treat conflict like a pastime. Who once spent 4 years planning retaliation against a nation simply because it bested them at a game with a ball and sticks. Ferlac frowned. What kind of game? Baseball, Zenekai snapped, eyes narrowing. And they still haven't forgiven the 2027 World Series. Before Ferlac could respond, alarms shrieked. The council chamber shook. A new message had arrived. Not another formal letter. A video. Elias Wren appeared, very much alive, seated comfortably with a cup of tea. His voice was cordial, but it carried weight. Esteemed members of the council, our 8-hour deadline has now passed. No children have been returned. Thus, Terran diplomatic procedure moves from request to notice. The following message will be classified as response. He placed the teacup gently aside, leaned forward, eyes warm but unflinching. I realize this may seem abrupt, but humanity has been patient. We have obeyed the rules. We even attempted group therapy. His smile hardened. But take our children, and you will meet the side of us we keep buried beneath courtesy. Then he said it. The word none in the chamber had heard uttered by Earth in over 3 millennia. War. The transmission cut. In the prison, Jamie's improvised transmitter blinked green. One pulse. Then another. Within moments, all 20 children looked up simultaneously and smiled. The guards fumbled for weapons, but too late. Something distinctly human had begun. At Caltera Prime, the Galactic Council's most fortified diplomatic station, the docks had never hosted a delegation like this. Crews expected robes, regalia, perhaps trembling ambassadors dragging the weight of expectation. Instead, what emerged from the unmarked black vessel carried the calm precision of predators entering alien ground. 10 of them. No insignia, no banners. Only a curious emblem painted near the hatch. A child's drawing of a stick figure holding hands with a grinning bear. The image chilled the inspectors more than any war crest could have. The humans disembarked in pairs. There was no ceremony. No guards flanking them. No cameras orchestrating spectacle. They wore an eclectic collection of attire that shouldn't have matched, but somehow did, a portrait of chaos woven into harmony. One figure moved in ceremonial samurai armor, its plates etched with names. Another carried a Maasai spear wound with fiber-optic strands. A tall man in a black cowboy hat sauntered forward, thumbs hooked into his belt, whistling a tune no algorithm could interpret. The youngest, barely 20, blew pink bubbles of gum while paging through a battered copy of The Art of War, margins filled with handwritten notes signed, Grandma Joe. At their head strode Lieutenant Rio. Formally, he bore the title Special Envoy for Human-Affiliated Crisis Negotiation. Informally, he was the envoy you sent when you wanted a fire kindled with a grin and extinguished with a handshake, preferably across someone's grave. He wore no armor. Only a navy blazer over a soft cotton shirt, its lettering in Terran script. I'm just here to help, but only if you're nice. The council's appointed greeter, Prexil of the Veshtu, a feathered diplomat with ceremonial scroll in hand, approached nervously. Welcome, Terran delegation, he chirped, extending the scroll. The council thanks you for your swift arrival. We hope to. Rio accepted the scroll delicately, then tore it neatly in half and returned both pieces. His grin was disarmingly pleasant. Appreciate the gesture, he said. But we're not here for paperwork. We're here to talk about our kids. Prexil recoiled, feathers bristling. This is highly irregular. Rio nodded. Yeah. That's kind of our specialty. Inside the amphitheater, tension was already thick from Elias Wren's earlier pronouncement. The word war lingered like smoke, poisoning the air. None of the council members rose for the humans, old habit born of superiority. They assumed, as always, humanity's bark exceeded its bite. Rio scanned the chamber, gave a low appreciative whistle. Damn, he muttered. You really went all in on the whole space gods on marble thrones vibe, didn't you? Verlac growled, barely restrained. Show respect, human. This hall is the heart of the accord. Rio's smile didn't waver. And these, he said, gesturing toward his companions, are hearts broken over 20 stolen children. So let's save the rituals and talk outcomes. Murmurs rippled across the amphitheater. Zenekai leaned forward. You speak as though Earth intends retaliation. Yet we have seen no fleets mobilize. No troop deployments. No overt aggression. The cowboy-hatted human tilted his head, smirked. That's cute. Y'all still think Earth needs fleets. Rio tapped a pocket-sized holoprojector. The chamber dimmed as a galaxy map unfolded, red marks spreading across multiple sectors. Outposts vanished. Mining colonies unresponsive. Supply convoys gone. Recognize these systems? Rio asked casually. They were yours. Past tense. A serpentine delegate from the Felm Consortium hissed. You're behind the disappearances? Rio tilted his head, feigning innocence. Now. Jumping to conclusions already? We're just here to talk. The display shifted, showing the imprisoned children. They were no longer passive. One taught guards a human song, badly but with undeniable zeal. Another had convened a weekly debate forum. 3 had organized a chess tournament. The aliens were losing. Zenekai narrowed her gaze. You suggest these children are pawns in your strategy? Rio's smile vanished for the first time. No. I'm saying they are the strategy. And you're already losing. Prexel's voice quivered. Surely you don't mean to imply a group of miners is a genuine threat. One of the Terran delegates, a woman draped in a patchwork cloak of Earth's faded flags, spoke softly. Your mistake wasn't underestimating our children. It was assuming humanity raises them to be helpless. Ferlac barked harsh laughter. Enough. You insult the Empire with parlor tricks and psychological games. If Earth desires war, let it come. We do not fear you. Rio turned slowly, gaze fixed on the general. His tone was calm, almost curious. You ever fought a mother bear with cubs? Ferlac blinked. Is that some Terran warlord? No, Rio replied evenly. It's an animal. A big furry one. Eats fish. Looks harmless, until you touch her children. Then she becomes the last thing you'll ever see. Ferlac rolled his eyes, his contempt dripping into the air. Your metaphors are worthless. Rio's grin sharpened. They're not metaphors. They're foreshadowing. The hollow display shimmered again. A new list emerged, not planets, not fleets, but names. Council insiders. Alien bureaucrats. Human collaborators. Entire networks of shadow operatives who had, for centuries, funneled information to the Empire in secret. Each profile blinked crimson, overlaid with the same chilling stamp. Account closed. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Zenikai muttered something in her native tongue, and even the translator hesitated before delivering the phrase. Seeds of rot pulled up by the roots. You knew all of them? She asked, her voice low. Rio shrugged lightly. Knew? No. We planted them. Every name on that list was ours. Every whisper, every leak, every misplaced document, intentional. You were never drawing from your own informant. You were swallowing bait. You used your own spies as pawns? Another counselor demanded, aghast. The man in the cowboy hat chuckled. Nah. They used themselves. We just handed them the fishing line. A serpent-bodied council member shot up in panic. You've penetrated our networks. Penetrated. Rio's laugh was quick, cruel. Please. We are your networks. The trick is you never look. You watched our fleets, our weapons, our noise. You never checked the software updates. Prexel's feathers paled. So this was all a trap. Rio nodded. 3,000 years of peace, and you wasted it building an empire that convinced itself humans were clowns at court. Congratulations. The joke's over. Pandemonium erupted. Some counselors screamed for sanctions, others for surrender. Ferlac roared for war. Zenikai alone stayed silent, studying the humans like someone who had just realized the walls of her world were bars. Rio shut down the projector. The humans rose. They walked out as casually as they had entered. Over his shoulder, Rio called. You can still return the kids. It won't stop what's already moving, but it'll make the pain a little softer. Zenikai stood, her voice calm as stone. What is your true purpose here, Lieutenant? Revenge? Empire? Domination? Rio paused, glanced back at her, and his answer was barely above a whisper. Justice. The chamber doors closed behind them. Deep beneath the council hall, in a sealed monitoring chamber, 3 operatives reviewed the exchange. Emergency lockdown? One asked. Too late, another replied. Earth's already inside. What do we tell the public? The third sighed. What we always do. We lie. The screen flickered. A feed from the children's prison filled the wall. One child lifted a placard to the camera. The glyphs were alien, but the message was clear. We're not waiting to be rescued. The feed cut to black. The prison orbited the dead moon of Valis 7, a facility originally designed to hold warlords, insurgents, and species deemed psychologically unstable. That such a place now held 20 Terran children under 16 years of age had once seemed a misuse of resources. Now it felt like doom incarnate. The guards whispered about it only in private. They had stopped sleeping. Strange phenomena bled into every night cycle. Entire systems rebooted without command. Doors clicked open, then sealed again. Surveillance feeds glitched. Power relays surged. A quartermaster's boot vanished midshift. All were logged as classified anomalies. Recton, the six-eyed warden, stalked the corridor with pulse rifle half-raised, antennae twitching. His gaze clung to the feeds. Children sitting in concentric circles, quietly eating, humming in eerie rhythm, exchanging coded glances without words. They didn't whisper. They didn't argue. They moved like parts of a single machine. A young guard swallowed hard. "Sir, there's humming again." Corridor 7. "Power relays," Recton snapped. "No, sir. Not the walls. Inside the cells." Inside, 9-year-old Lily Tran slipped a pair of stripped wires into a seam carved behind the dining bench. She pressed a button on a palm-sized transmitter cobbled together from scavenged scrap. It vibrated once, then clicked. She smiled. Signal stabilized. 12-year-old Darius Holt adjusted a jury-rigged headset fashioned from broken trays and alien comm circuit. "Bridge is open. Encrypting now." From her bunk, 15-year-old Sari Adissa watched the camera cycle across its routine sweep. 2 minutes until blind spot. Make them count. None of them had trained in any army. They weren't soldiers. They were children, but children shaped by a planet that had endured extinction, invasion, and betrayal. They had been raised with an unspoken understanding: Earth's enemies would one day test its legacy. And so Earth had prepared. Not with weapons, but with knowledge. With mentors. With simulations. Some were children of generals. Others had been guided by spymasters, AI analysts, and diplomat. Every one of them was an asset wrapped in innocence. Until provoked. Lily tapped the relay twice. Deep beneath the Andes, a dormant node blinked awake. A string of binaries spilled across monitors. Then words. Phase 1 complete. Children have control. In Earth's war room, Elias Wren stood before the tactical holotables, coffee steaming in hand, encircled by the finest minds of humanity. "Extraction readiness?" he asked casually. "Nav arrays calibrated. Stealth drones 20 minutes from Valis 7. Delegation on standby. And the Empire? Still scattering fleets into the void, chasing ghosts where their colonies used to be." "Good," Elias murmured, setting down his cup. "Let them hunt shadows." In the prison, guards stormed corridor after corridor in search of the humming. They found nothing. The walls lay silent. But in the vents, in the conduits, in the nanodrone maintenance shafts abandoned for decades, the children had become phantoms. 2 guards barged into cell block 8. The children sat neatly in rows, hands folded. The older guard grunted. "What were you doing?" Jamie Leclerc, age 11, looked up with wide-eyed innocence. "Practicing." "Practicing for what?" "Negotiation," Jamie replied calmly. "In case we ever meet captors who are unprofessional." The younger guard snarled, raising his plasma staff. "You mock us." Jamie tilted his head, voice steady. "No. I'm preparing you." Then the lights died. Darkness swallowed the corridor. Through the black, a voice slithered from the vents. Fluent, perfect, spoken in Varnak, a dialect reserved only for Black Site military command. "Stand down," a voice commanded. "Unauthorized force against human diplomatic proxies is punishable under Treaty Clause 42. The guards froze. The voice wasn't a child's. Far below the detention levels, in a maintenance crawlspace hidden 5 decks under the main cells, a figure moved with predatory grace. Kira Halden adjusted her breathing mask, sliding open a hatch with silent precision. Officially, she had been listed killed in action years ago. In reality, she was alive, embedded in the heart of the Empire's most secure prison. Godmother to Sari Adissa. Architect of Operation Playground. Phase 2 in 6 minutes, she murmured into her comm, prison AI compromised. Local control rerouted to Child Unit Alpha. Elias Wren's voice came softly through her earpiece. Confirmed. Make them panic. Kira slipped through the shafts like water, her armor clinging close to her skin, adaptive to temperature, bending to her body. Once, she had dismantled an entire pirate syndicate using nothing but duct tape and a sharpened spoon. The Empire had hunted her for years, convinced she was dead. And now she was already inside their lungs. On the upper levels, Warden Recton shrieked into his comm, demanding answers from the prison AI. A reply came. Not from the AI. From a child. Sari's voice. Calm. Innocent. Parental override activated. Recton, would you like to play a game? The control panels lit up with childlike icons. Bouncing balloons, cartoon animals, pixelated bears. Doors hissed open at random. Power grids surged, dipped, rewrote themselves in cycles of chaos. Recton tore at his mandibles, seething. Outside, sleek Terran stealth craft emerged from the void. They didn't resemble warships, too compact, too smooth, almost playful in design. Yet each held enough coordinated AI firepower to obliterate the prison in a heartbeat. But destruction wasn't the goal. Humiliation was. In cell block H, Lily's transmitter blinked. A message scrolled across her small screen. Hello, little monsters. Ready for some magic? She grinned, tapped her reply. The children rose as one. When the guards re-entered minutes later, the cells were empty. Not breached. Not broken. Empty. The children had vanished. Panic swept the facility. Klaxons roared. Doors jammed. Surveillance feeds looped stale footage of children still sitting, obedient in their seat. A convincing illusion, but false. In truth, Jamie and Darius were crouched inside the AI core, rerouting shield power to twist inward. Sari commandeered the comm hub, broadcasting Elias's message across every internal channel. Earth is patient. But Earth is not tame. High above, Kira crouched in shadow, eyes watching Recton rage at his officers. She marked exits, mapped troop movement, and dispatched encrypted signals to human operatives embedded across the Empire. She tapped once on her comm, final phase. Elias's voice answered, low and steady. Is the lesson clear? Not yet, Kira whispered. But close. On the Empire's orbiting cruiser, alarms screamed. Mainframe unresponsive. What do you mean, unresponsive? I mean the prison has replaced all system broadcasts with a child's drawing of a bear. In crayon. The Admiral's crest stiffened. That is supposed to intimidate us? Moments later, the prison's defense grid activated, inward. Shields snapped shut, sealing everything inside. External comms went dark. Then a message burst outward, hijacking every major faction's channels. You took our children. We sent them home. The ones you should fear are still inside. Galactic silence followed. Every Accord terminal lit once more with a transmission. Elias Wren sat comfortably, sipping tea. Esteemed Council, he began warmly, consider this a reminder. Humanity rarely strikes first. We watch. We adapt. And when we do respond, it will never be where you expect. He smiled thinly. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a bedtime story to finish. About a wolf who thought he could steal lambs, until the lambs remembered they had teeth. The message cut. Valis 7 went dark. But in its shadowed hangars, Kira Halden stood at the outer hatch, watching each child lifted away by stealth drones. Smiling. Waving. Safe. Unafraid. The guards lived, shaken but alive. The prison itself stood intact. But its reputation lay in ruins. Because the most devastating blow was not destruction. It was humiliation. The galaxy had just been undone by children. And humanity? Humanity was far from finished. Beyond Sol's outer edge, the Empire's armada assembled like a storm. 7,000 warships stretched across the black, dreadnoughts vast as cities, carriers armed with shock-wave torpedoes capable of liquefying moons. Still, Earth did not move. No fleet mobilized. No defense wall shimmered. Only a lone beacon drifted near the Kuiper Belt, broadcasting on every Imperial frequency. Admiral Vrathak, commander of the 3rd Conquest Fleet, narrowed his 4 eyes. A joke. The beacon flickered. A child's voice rang out. Hello. My name is Lily. I'm 9. You took me from school. I was learning to draw squirrels. A pause. Her tone sharpened, cutting through the static. I've learned other things since then. Music followed. Human music. Slow. Haunting blues piano. Then silence. Beneath Geneva, Elias Wren stood in Earth's subterranean command chamber, where shelves of old books lined walls beside modern holographic arrays. He studied the streams of data pouring from across the galaxy, calm and certain. It's working, he murmured. Rio leaned against a centuries-old globe, arms folded. You think they'll fire first? No, Elias said. Not yet. They're still searching for a target they can comprehend. Behind him, the children had already been returned, debriefed, comforted, kept unaware of just how far their small hands had tilted the balance of the galaxy. Most of the rescued children were lounging in what looked less like a decontamination suite and more like a daycare center, cartoons glowing on wall screens, bowls of ice cream scattered around. Jamie had demanded sushi. Sari asked to go horseback riding. Elias approved both without hesitation. Message incoming from the council, Admiral Singh reported. They're asking to negotiate. Of course they are, Rio muttered, raising an eyebrow. You planning to answer? Elias shook his head slowly. They're not speaking to us. Not really. They're reaching out to the version of humanity they hope still exists, the restrained one, the one they could cow with bureaucracy. But that humanity is gone. His voice softened, though every syllable cut like a blade. It ended the moment they put a shock collar on a 6-year-old and dared to call it diplomacy. On the council's homeworld, panic festered behind polished speeches. Only Zenekai studied the data streams with clarity, tracing the pattern. What she saw terrified her. It wasn't war. It wasn't chaos. It was choreography, precise, methodical, elegant. The human fleet wasn't there. And that absence alone was dread. Where are they? Verlac roared, pounding the table. They're already inside, Zenekai whispered. They've been inside. They're not coming to the battle. They're waiting for us to finish losing. At the edge of Sol, the Armada fired. Not at Earth, but at the beacon. The target dissolved in molten debris. The fleet erupted in cheers. A symbolic victory, at least. Then every screen on every ship turned white. Elias Wren appeared, smiling serenely with his cup of tea. My apologies, he said warmly. That beacon wasn't a threat. It was a mirror. And now you fired first. I simply needed confirmation. He leaned forward, voice as calm as a lullaby. You never understood us. You mistook our playfulness for weakness. Our music, our art, our sarcasm. You saw distraction. They were never distractions. They were camouflage. Our culture doesn't dull the beast. It keeps the beast asleep. And now, he paused. Now the beast is awake. Every Imperial ship received a simultaneous software update. No breach could be traced. No delivery method detected. The files arrived encrypted in Earth Standard Code, titled simply, Smile. On the Dreadnought's command deck, engineers screamed. We've been compromised. No, another corrected, horrified. This was always in our systems. It's been dormant for years. Across the fleet, engines died. Weapons froze. Carriers turned their guns inward. Navigation reversed. Colossal ships rammed their own escorts. It was surgical, not war, but correction. Retreat. Evacuate. Admiral Vrathak roared. Earth is not what we thought. But it was too late. From Jupiter's shadow, light rippled. Human ships decloaked. Not leviathans, but thousands of small black vessels, invisible until this moment. No heat signatures. No broadcast. No sound. And then a voice, drifting through every channel. We told you not to touch the kids. The stars flared with silent fire. Not explosions. Not thunder. Just systems collapsing, shields folding inward, decks venting into space. And then, silence. Earth hadn't destroyed the fleet. It had unraveled it, piece by piece, until only ghosts remained. In Geneva's subterranean command chamber, Elias gave no orders. None were needed. The plan had been seeded long before. Rio watched the data collapse, lips parted. You knew they'd take the bait. Of course, Elias replied, serene. They've ruled too long. They forgot anyone below them could be dangerous. Now, they remember. Inside the Council's private war chamber, chaos reigned. Diplomats fled. Guards turned on one another as systems shut down. The doors sealed. Lights dimmed. And into that panic walked a single human. Kira Halden. No longer in stealth, no longer a rumor. She tossed a severed comms node onto the table at Verlac's feet. From your prison, she said flatly. Might want to clean it. The children left something poetic inside. Zenekai rose. What is it you want? Not me, Kira replied. She tapped her armor. A speaker crackled with Elias's voice. To the Empire and its council, Earth no longer acknowledges your authority. You tried to weaponize our future. We've dismantled your present. And as for your past, every screen came alive. Hidden atrocities spilled across the walls. Evidence, prison logs, executions long denied. Proof of crimes sealed for centuries under the mask of peace. You will disband, Elias said. Or you will be erased. Verlac's claws twitched toward a hidden blade. Kira met his glare. Try it, she said. I'd like to retire on a round number. Verlac hesitated, then dropped the blade. Zenekai stepped closer, eyes searching. You could take everything. Why stop here? Kira's gaze didn't waver. Because this isn't about conquest. It's about correction. And because Earth doesn't conquer. She paused. We remember. The chamber went dark. On every screen in every conquered system, a final broadcast played. The children. All 20. Smiling. Safe. Jamie stepped forward. We're fine. We're home. Sari added softly, but some things can't be undone. Lily tilted her head. So maybe next time, don't start something you're not ready to finish. Then Elias's voice, calm and resolute. We offered peace. You chose arrogance. We responded accordingly. Black screens. Silence. Above Earth, the last Imperial dreadnought drifted powerless. Its crew watched as their systems faded one by one. And on the ground, beneath the gentle dawn, Elias Wren closed his eyes. Birds sang. Children laughed. Rio approached. Is it over? For now. You think they'll try again? Elias opened his eyes, gaze lifting to the sky. They'll remember. And if they don't, he smiled faintly. We'll remind them. And so the tale ends, a warning written in the stars. Humanity, underestimated for millennia, had shown the galaxy that patience should never be mistaken for weakness. If you enjoyed traveling through this world, if the suspense, the strategy, and the fire of survival pulled you in, then I invite you to stay with us. Sparkles subscribe for more stories like this. Thumbs up, like, share, and leave a comment to tell us what you thought. Milky Way, what kind of sci-fi world would you like to explore next? Your ideas might become the next tale. Until then, remember, even the smallest voice can echo across galaxies.